Hey, 3D animation class. Welcome to week 11. Today we're talking about fluid simulations. So this is for doing liquid and smoke and things that are kind of dynamic in that way here in Blender. Some of these things might be fun additions to your movie studio logo animation thing. Also, we may talk about particles just a little bit more too, if the spirit moves me. So let's go over to Blender. You'll see if you're not in the modeling class that I've got my fancy blue wall behind me that I can key out here. Okay, so fluid simulations. Deleting. Well, let's just leave all that for now. So let's deal with this cube. So in order to have a fluid simulation, you need a couple things. You need to have a domain, which is an area that you're designating that your fluid simulation can happen inside of. And then you need something to flow. So something that either creates the smoke or the liquid that flows out of it. You can also have, so there's inflows and outflows. So inflow is adding liquid, outflow is sucking liquid out. So we can look at both those examples. So first, we've got our cube. Let's go to your physics properties here with the cube selected, and let's add fluid. So this, we're going to say the cube is going to be our domain. So everything is going to happen inside our domain here. We'll revisit this in a moment. Next, we need to create an object. So I'm going to go Shift-A, and I'm just going to add a UV sphere, scale it down a little bit. And this is going to be our flow. So this, like, liquid is going to flow out of this. So let's go to add our fluid thing here in the physics properties. And this fluid type is going to be flow. We'll also talk about effectors too in a little bit. So we've got two things. We've got our cube, that is the domain. And then inside the domain, we have our flow object. So first, with our flow object, so I'm going to rename cube as domain. I'm going to rename sphere as flow, just so, to keep track. So our flow object. Let's change our flow type to liquid. And let's change our flow geometry to inflow. So I mentioned inflow is adding liquid in, outflow is sucking it out. Like you could have a drain that could be an outflow. And then geometry, the third option is like if you don't want the amount of liquid to change, but you just want it to be the amount of liquid that is the shape. So like if I had geometry, like it would just make a ball of liquid that would just fall and stay. Like they wouldn't add or subtract any, it would just be the shape of the mesh. So if I had a Suzanne, it would make a Suzanne amount of liquid. So we want this to be inflow. Okay, so our flow thing is good. Back to the domain. So we need to change our domain type to liquid. So we're not doing gas, we're doing liquid. So you can see that it covers it up here. We'll deal with that in a second. Let's change a couple more settings. So we want to make sure liquid is checked, and a couple of final things. We want to generate a mesh from the fluid. So this is basically so that we can see it. A reason that you wouldn't have mesh enabled is if you were doing something with like the liquid particles, but otherwise, like for our purposes, we just want to be able to see it. So mesh. And finally, cache. This one is important as well. So this is what enables us to actually kind of see it. And I said mesh, but like this like allows us to see the actual liquid. But cache is how we're able to see like the animation of the liquids, that we're not just looking at an empty box like this. So we want to change our cache type to all, so we can just. What does the tooltip say? Bake all simulation settings at once, yeah. So there, you can preview physics simulations like on your timeline down here. So like actually here, if you change this to a replay, if you go to frame 0 and you press the spacebar, you can like now see this actually starting to flow. So like we know that it's actually working. That's a good thing. it maybe is a little, throws you off a little bit to like see the cube there. But we at least know that like this is working. We have this set up right. And maybe my recording is slowing down. So liquid simulations are very CPU intensive, so just be aware of that. But I think the more reliable way to do this is to bake your fluid thing. So change our type to all, and then you have this option to bake all. And what this will do is it'll cache, like it'll run the simulation, and it'll save that as like a file. So it's like here, it's on my C drive here, it's saving this file. And it can be kind of a larger file. But it's saving this on the hard drive so that you can watch it and it's like not a big deal. You'll just be able to see it. So we'll let that go to frame 250. And now if I press play, it's immediate, it's fast. It's not trying to calculate it every time. So this is a good way to like get an idea of what's happening. So look, it's a fluid simulation. We did it. Congrats. A couple things to note here. So obviously, like this has generated a mesh. One thing. So let's talk about the detail a little bit. So this cube kind of represents the voxel size. And voxel it kind of represents the generative chunks of the liquid in the simulation. So like we can shade smooth like this, and it actually like doesn't look terrible. But like if you were going for something that looked real, you'd want to have smaller chunks like this. So we can go back up here. I think we got to go back to frame 0. Or no, actually no. I think we have to free entire fluid simulation like this, and this will allow us to go back and adjust some of these settings. So resolution division. So and we can even do wireframe like this so we can see it a little better. Resolution division. So we're at 32. So this value corresponds to the longest domain side. So we can up this. So like if I change this to 64, if I double it, and then we go back down here, we can close some of these. We don't need all of that, just so we can more quickly get to it. And bake all. You can see that the baking will take a little bit longer. So because we've now doubled, and I guess technically like if you double the amount of samples, you're like quadrupling the amount of detail, because it does it like in both directions. And this is going to generate a bigger file, and this is going to have more detail in the liquid. So what a lot of people do, since doubling and quadrupling the quality can really take time, what a lot of people do is they'll turn down the fluid simulation as they're like editing and creating, and then when they're ready for the final render, then they'll crank it up at the end. Also, as this is running, you can just press the escape key, and it'll do up to that point. So look at the detail now. It's created a lot more detail, and so you can also see inside of it the like particles that are generated with it as well. And so like what it's doing is it's making these fluid particles, and then it's kind of wrapping a mesh over the top. So it's kind of cool. So now let's play just those whatever 100 frames. So you can see that it's a much more detailed fluid simulation here when I cranked the resolution division from 32 to 64. So yeah, that's cool. So right now all we have is the effector and the domain and the flow. And like one thing you can do, for example, if I select the flow here, actually we can go back to look dev. Is that what they call this? Solid mode. You can animate things like use flow. So like we can have this turn on for a little bit, and then keyframe, whoops, not keyframe that, keyframe use flow, and then on the next frame, like turn it off. Say like don't use flow, keyframe. And so now if I go back to my domain like this, if I free, and actually what I should turn this back to 32 so it doesn't take forever every time. You can even do less if you wanted. And then bake all. And that should be pretty fast. So by animating the use flow checkbox, it'll like turn it off, and then the water will just kind of come to settle. So let's see what this looks like. Nearly there. And okay, let's do it. So spacebar. So it flows out for a little bit, and then it'll turn off, and then it'll kind of slowly settle down. Nice. So that's that. Now the other thing we could do is like let's talk about effectors. So let's free all. Let's go back to wireframe. And let's just make like a little cup just for fun. So let's put a cylinder in here and open my add cylinder menu. And I don't want an end gun, I want a triangle fan. Okay, and move this down a little bit. All right, so let's go to edit mode on this. I just want the face select here. I don't want X-ray select, I just want these faces and not this one. Oh gosh. Just these faces, please. Thank you. And then I want to insert faces like this, and then extrude down like that. So here's our very simple cup. Great. Back into object mode. Okay. I guess I did need X-ray select to see through there. So, and I'm going to move this up. I'm going to go GZ, move this up, and actually scale it down a little bit. Okay. So with our cup, I'm going to rename this cup. It's a cup with dirt in it. I call it cup of dirt. Sorry, stupid reference. Fluid. So let's add the fluid thing on here. And this is not domain, it's not flow, it's effector. And this is going to have collision on it. Okay, so let's go back to our domain, and let's free all, and let's just see what happens. So let's and then bake again. So we're on frame 1. We'll let this bake for a few seconds. Now, what I'm expecting is going to happen is that our fluid will hit it, but it's going to like kind of slip through the cracks a little bit. So, okay, and that's already done. So let's just see what happens. I'm going to hit the space bar. Well, liquid flows out, yeah. So you can see it is like kind of bunching up a little bit around the edges, but it's just kind of like escaping through our cup a little bit. So you can see it does like land. It lands on top. Oh, you know what? And I think I also need to just like move my cup up because I think we're GZ. If I move it up like this, let's see what this does. Let's try this again real quick. It's fast enough. Go back to our domain, free, and bake. Let's see what this does. So there's a couple things that we're going to need to do to fix this up. We need to add just like a little bit more geometry because it's sort of just like slipping through the cracks of this. So we need to make sure that it's like sturdy enough. And the other thing is like just to test to make sure that it's working the way we want it to. We're going to up the resolution for the fluid just once to double check. So let me go to my orthographic side view here and just see what this is doing. Yeah, so you can see that it's like, it's hitting it, but then all these particles are just kind of spilling out the sides. So let's do a couple things. I'm gonna go back to frame 0. I'm gonna hide the domain for just a second. And let's edit this a little bit. So I'm gonna do Control, whoops, with my cup selected, tab for edit mode. I'm gonna do Control R for a loop cut, and then on the outside, I'm gonna mouse wheel up and just add a few cuts like this. Put it there. And then on the inside too, I'm gonna add a few cuts here. And let's see if I can do it on the bottom too, like this. Can I do Control R loop cut here? Is it gonna let me? No, so I'm just gonna extrude inner a few times, or insert faces. So let's go, don't want this. Select these ones, face select. These faces, please, there we go. I'll insert faces a couple times just like this. So like, you know, you can probably have better methods for modeling off the bat, but just to like sort of show you. All right, so let me go back like this. Let's go back, let's show our domain again. Let's click this. And just for good measure, let's also add a subdivision. So I'm going to do Control 2 like this. So it's just like a little more cuppy. Okay, back to the domain, back to our cache, free all, and then bake once again. So I'm adding geometry so that hopefully there's less of the particles just kind of slipping through the cracks there. The next thing we'll try is just to verify that it's working the way we want is to up the resolution. I think I already said that. I'm repeating myself. Okay, let's see how this does. Back at frame 0, play. Okay, so yeah, it's still like slipping out the bottom a little bit. So let's try this. So let's go back, frame 0, we're on our domain, free all. Let's up the resolution to 64. Let's see how this works. So I'm gonna bake this one. And so like, I'm only gonna do a little bit just to like, again, verify that it's working. And then I'm gonna take the resolution down low enough that it's not going to fall out of the thing. So we'll just find like the minimum acceptable. There we go. So so it looks like it's still being a little goofy. There's like a couple things that fall out. Like you see this little guy just kind of poops out of here. It's like and then poop. And so then a couple of, are those things spilling out of the top? No, those are more little guys kind of just pooping out the bottom. So it might be worthwhile to, what we can do again is, let's apply this. Let's even make this like 3 and 3 and apply our subdivision modifier on there. Let's see what this does. And I probably didn't even need to do 3. So here we go. Back to frame 0. I'm on my physics simulations on the domain, free. And I'm going to turn this down to like, let's turn this back to 32. I'm just curious. And bake. Let's see what we got going on here. Just do 127 frames. Oh yeah, so it is slipping out. Okay. One more time, freeing all. Sorry. Let's do 64. Bake all. I'll let this bake all the way through. Okay, fluid is baked. Let's check it out. Now there's still a couple little, there's that one guy that likes to sneak through and then it kind of overflows out of the top a little bit. Cool. But I like it. Okay, so what do you do from here? So now we can actually have some fun. So we can go to like material preview like this. Well, let's put a material on the cup. Well, we can make this just like you know, like an orange coffee mug, a little darker orange. Turn the brightness down. I have an orange coffee mug that I use. That's like more of like a yellow orange like this. Yeah, there we go. Turn down the roughness. It's like a shiny mug, and just like a little bit of roughness, specular. Anyway, and then like so your domain here is like the actual fluid. So like if you want, you could put a material on the domain. Let's actually remove that. Do a new material. I probably didn't need to remove it. And you could make this, you know, blue milk. You guys watch Star Wars? And you know, once you're pleased with that, you'd probably want to render it at an even higher resolution, because you can see it's still like a little rough. And once you've got it set the way you want, so you got the animation working the way you want, let's even go to render preview like this. Is that shade smooth? It is. You'd probably want to up the resolution even more. Yeah, cool. And you could have like an outflow or something. I don't know. So that is fluid. And like you could even like an idea that I had is like if you wanted to fill up, like if you're doing your movie studio graphic, you could just hide you know, your effectors and just have the liquid, you know, like fill up the letter N for Nolan. So that's kind of a cool effect too. Or like, you know, if you really wanted to be fancy, you could go over to cycles like this, and like rather you could have this be an emission surface. Where's emission? Here. And it could be like a glowing blue thing, and then you turn on the cup, and you have like this glowing blue liquid like this. It's like radioactive. So yeah, or like you could have it be like, you could make this coffee colored. So let me just add another light in here just for fun. Not for fun, just for real. Make this 500 watts like that. More. Okay, and rather than emission, you could make this like coffee. So you make it more, whoops, that's the cup. Didn't mean to do that. So on the thing here, let's just make this principled. Change the base color to like a brown, like a dark brown, like that. And then now it's like chocolate milk, but if you wanted it to be coffee, you just turn up the transmission like this, I believe. And up the, yeah, how would you do this? Transmission? Thought it was transmission. Oh, I think I need to go through here and do transparent like that. Does that work? No. Maybe let's just put a glass on here and change the color to be like brown. Yeah. Brown. There's your coffee. Now the coffee is spilling out like this. Filling up your cup. Yeah, cool. You can change the IOR. IOR is like the amount of like refraction, I believe. Or like I think it's the angle of refraction. It's like if it's exactly 1, like the light travels straight through it, so you can see like this edge here is like lines up perfectly with that. But if I go up, like it refracts more or less. So I watched a video and what the IOR of coffee is, because they were trying to do like an actual coffee mug. I think it's like 1.183 or something weird like that. I don't know. But you can look up these values. 1.01, sure. Okay. That is liquid. That's our liquid sitch. Okay, cool. Let's talk about smoke now. Okay, so let me start over here. So I'll go File, New, General, don't save. Sorry. Okay, smoke. So smoke functions much the same way because it also is a fluid simulation. So we're starting with a cube. I'm going to go to my physics simulator, physics properties, and add fluid to the cube. This again is going to be a domain, but now the domain type is gas rather than liquid. So let's Shift A. We need another object to be our flow. I'm going to do Suzanne this time. And again, fluid on Suzanne. Flow type is flow. I'm going to be smoke. So let's just, does anything happen here when I press play? No, not yet. Oh yeah, duh, I forgot to change the flow behavior. Not geometry, it is going to be in flow. Let's see if this does it now. No, not yet. What am I forgetting? Let me try this again because I feel like that should work. Okay, Shift A. I'm adding a cube, scaling that up a little bit. The cube is going to have fluid. It is of type domain, and it is a gas domain. Okay. Shift A, adding a monkey. Adding fluid to this. Type is flow. This will be smoke. Flow behavior in flow. I think that's all I need to do. Okay, I don't know why that wasn't working before. So now if I press play, you can see that now smoke is rising off of Suzanne, and it's hitting the top of our domain. GZ, move this down. So again, I'm just like pressing the space bar to kind of preview this. So again, one thing to like be aware of is like you may want to if the type is replay on your cache here, you can kind of reset it, but again, it's probably more optimal to just bake it like this when you want to make a change, so that you can see what it's doing and it's a little fast. Like you bake it the one time, and then your computer doesn't have to calculate it every single time. So let's go 250 frames. Okay, there we go. You can see the smoke rising off of Suzanne. Very nice. So let's actually also just see what the fire looks like. So let me go to Suzanne and change the flow type to fire plus smoke. And I'll go back to here, free, and bake again just for a little bit. And one tip while this is baking, so your domain, obviously, like if you want smoke to be going like really far into the air, you need your domain to be that much bigger. And the larger your domain is, the slower this process is, because it requires more calculation to be able to monitor such a large domain. So here's our fiery Suzanne. Very nice. Yeah, so, and again, right now our resolution is pretty low, 32. But you can play with some of these things. So you could have like different gravity values. So you could have it kind of flow in a different direction, or you could add some noise. So I'm actually going to do this a little bit. So I'm going to free all. And I'm going to change some of these things. So noise is just going to kind of make it swirl and twirl just a little bit. I'm going to GZ, or SZ. Well, no. What's the best way? I think the best way, I don't want to scale it because I think it might actually mess with the scale of the whole thing. So I'm actually going to edit this and go GZ and move that up like that. So I'm going to add noise. The other thing I'm going to add is dissolve. And so what this is going to do is it's going to make it fade away, rather than just kind of continue to fill up our space. Dissolve will determine how quickly the smoke dissolves. Lower value makes the smoke disappear faster. So I'm going to add a little bit of noise. I'm not going to change any of that. I'm going to add a dissolve. And I'm also going to up the resolution to 64. And I kind of like the fire look, so I'm gonna keep the fire going. And also, just for good measure, I'm gonna add I'm gonna add an effector. Oops, and I'm still in edit mode, so I should undo that. I need to go to object mode, and I want to Shift A, add a cube, and S Shift Z like this, and SZ. Whoops, SZ like that. Actually, maybe scale it down a little bit. So I'm just gonna like kind of have this here, and this is gonna be, I'm gonna have this be an effector and kind of have the smoke hit this and kind of move off to the side. So I'm gonna add fluid to this, and this is gonna be effector collision. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to frame 0, hit my domain, and I'm going to bake all, and I'm gonna pause the video while this happens. Okay, so let's check it out. I'm on frame 0 and I'm hitting spacebar, so it's on fire. So you can see like now the noise is what's creating like a little bit of the whoosh. But I kind of feel like the smoke is going away a little bit too fast, so I might be having this fading a little bit quickly. So let's free again. I'm gonna change the, what is the slow? Dissolves smoke in a logarithmic, dissolves quickly at first but lingers longer. Sure. So let's actually make this like 10. And just like I really want to crank this up, so I'm gonna make this like 96. Okay. And I'll do this one more time. And again, like this, I'm just doing I'm doing the fire plus smoke And maybe you just want the smoke or something like that. So let me bake this again, just for fun, just for fun. So the way that I'm doing this is probably a little backwards. You'd probably wait to up the resolution until you got like the timing and stuff right. So that you don't have to wait this long every time you're changing a value. Like I probably should have just kept it at 32, changed the dissolve time to make sure it was going as far as I wanted, and then when I was ready. But I was just so excited to see it. Okay, so let's try. Let's play this here. Spacebar. Oh, and it's still, yeah, like kind of slow, but it looks good. It looks like very realistic. And now you can see that it's hitting my little thing here. So the smoke is kind of hits it and then has to go around my little barrier thing there. Very cool. Okay, so that's like one way to do smoke. The other thing we could do. So I'm gonna change all these. I'm gonna change these back. Free all. Let's turn this back down to 32. And now I'm gonna like switch these. I'm gonna go GZ and GZ, and let's actually just kind of reset all of these rotations to 0, like that. And let's do some like smoke that like falls off of Suzanne. So it's kind of like a fog, like a heavy fog that comes off of it. So let's see. Okay, so on Suzanne here, sorry, let me mute that. On Suzanne here, let's see, go to our physics properties. I want this to just be smoke now. Add smoke, use flow, okay, great. And then in our domain here, I want to change some of the properties a little bit. So I think I need a, how can I change? I don't want to use the scene gravity. Okay, I figured it out. So here it says it's using the scene gravity. So what I can do is I can go back to our scene properties and turn off the gravity. Or I suppose I could change it here if I wanted to. I'm going to turn it off, and then I think if I go back to here, I can just make this like a positive value. So -9, I'll make it regular 9. And let's see what this does to the simulation. So I want this, so smoke is going to fall out of Suzanne. Now I'm not sure if I've set this up correctly, but let's just try it. Let's go back to here, go back to our domain, and bake all. Let's try this. And actually, I want to turn off dissolve. I want this to just like fall down. Okay, turn off dissolved. Okay, I think that's right. Let's bake all this and let's see what happens. Shouldn't take but a moment. It is but the work of a moment. Anybody watch holiday movies? That's from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. He's in the store buying a gift. No, that's not from that. That's from what is it? Not National Lampoon's. Love Actually. What are we talking about? Okay, let's see what's going on here. Okay, so smoke is coming out of Suzanne and now falling down into the scene. So it's like a nice, like kind of doomy fog. Okay, so it feels like it's kind of a lot of smoke that's coming out. You know what we should do? Let's take the fluid off of Suzanne here. Let's go back to 0. And like I just want the fluid, the smoke to come out of her eyes. Let's do that. So I'm going to do tab to edit mode. I'm going to select these faces, hold down the shift key and select these faces, and I'm going to shift D, duplicate, and move these in the Y direction just a little bit so they're kind of right on top here. And then with these selected, I'm going to go mesh and separate by selection. So it's going to separate what I have selected into a new object. So this is Suzanne, and then these we'll just call like smoke eyes. And let's add fluid onto here. Flow, Yes. Fluid, flow, smoke. Okay, let's try this now. We'll need to free this a little bit. Sorry, go back into object mode, please. There we go. Free this. Go back here, free all, and then bake all. And see what this does. I probably should have made my domain a little bit smaller now since we don't need all that space up above. But that'll be just fine. Nearly done. Okay, let's see what this does. Huh, interesting. Oh, you know what? I think I forgot one thing. So, oh, okay, and I still have the, sorry, I set this up wrong. I put the fluid back on Suzanne instead of smoke eyes. So we want smoke eyes, we want fluid. And also, so did you see, real quick, did you see that I had it set to geometry and it just made a Suzanne's head worth of smoke and that it just fell down. It's not creating any more. So this is an example of using the geometry for flow. So maybe I select both of these. I'm going to GY move these back a little bit because I kind of want it to pour out of the eyes and then down. Okay, with the smoke eyes selected, fluid, flow, inflow. Back, clicking on the domain again, going all the way down to cache, free all, bake all. Now we can have some fun. The other thing too, so once you do this, you can kind of choose, working with fluid, like the visuals of fluid, a lot of times it'll work better with, or it'll look better with cycles. Obviously in this animation class, the Eevee renderer is going to be just fine for what you're doing. But yeah, so it's going to kind of spill over the sides and go down. Okay, here's what I'm wanting to do here. I'm going to GZ move this down and select these two and SX scale these apart like this. So I've got a little bit more room for it to kind of move around, and I'm gonna GY move this one here a little bit too. And that's gonna be our smoke zone. Okay, great. What was I about to do? What was I saying? Oh yeah, so once I kind of get this right, I wanna play with the visuals of it a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna now that I believe I'm gonna be happy with how this looks. I think I can, without doing that, I can free and check this and just see how this works and change it just to replay. I think I can just play it like this. Yeah. Sometimes I'm okay playing it slow like this just because I want to get the gist. It's coming out of the eyes. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to bake one more time, and I'm going to turn this up to like 96, like before. I think I'm going to leave everything the same, and then I'm going to bake, and I'll pause one more time. So I'm going to go back to all, bake all, and I'll see you on the other side of this edit point. Excuse me. Should have waited to unpause until after I cleared my throat. Let's see how we did. So let's see how we did. I may be repeating myself. I'm not sure. Sometimes I like accidentally pause the recording and I go for minutes and minutes without realizing I paused it. So it's still running a little slow here because it's with the resolution of 96, what I set it to here. There are now still lots of particles in the scene, and we're just keep adding more and more. So as we get further down my simulation here, it goes even slower. So you can see now I'm at 5 frames per second. But so like this is probably the 4th time I'm saying this, but you need to make a judgment on how long you're willing to wait for something like this. But I think with 96 it looks pretty good, and you can see like I'm just getting to the point here where the smoke just kind of starts to fall down off my little ledge here. And this is also the point where, and this is probably maybe more for the modeling class students, but we can kind of do something cool here. So let's see. So now rendering. We need to because if I go to render preview like this, we can't actually see it. So we need to put a material on our smoke here, and so it's this cube here. So this is going to be smoke, and let's put a material on here. And what we actually need is not a principled BF, but we want a principled volume. And I believe. Okay, sorry. So we do need a principled volume, but actually we need to go into the node editor just to hook this up real quick. So let's go into the shading workspace, and you can see that when I switched it to principled volume, it plugged the volume thing into the surface, and we actually want to just make sure that the volume goes into the material output volume. And now, okay, there we go. So now if I go to render preview, yes. Indeed, here we are. So this is what it looks like with, we'll do it with Eevee. Yeah, Eevee kind of chunks it up a little bit. We want to do cycles. So cycles is like a little bit more on track with what we're doing. So here's where you can kind of turn some of these settings down: density, emission strength. The other thing we should probably do is, actually this is something that we need to do, I believe. Because right now I think it's doing just like maximum density. So we need to get the density info from the scene. So we need to add an input. And I apologize for you animators that are like, boring. So let's do Shift A. We won't need another input, and we want, I think it's particle info. No, Shift A, input, volume info. Here it is, volume info. And we want to plug the density into the density here like this. I think, hold on, let me look this up. Okay, so it's just this emission. I don't know why the default emission was high. So if you turn the emission down to 0, you can see that now we have the smoke particles kind of coming out here. So if I were to do, actually, what is my camera looking at? Let me just kind of change my camera view a little bit. If I do, let me change the render setting. Let's do 30 seconds of render. If I want to just render this image out. And so you can kind of see this is just like the base. We just put like a super basic volume material on here, and it's just kind of put a color on the smoke particles, basically. And then we can like adjust our settings a little bit to kind of make it look a little smokier and a little spookier. Okay. So you can see that and I'm using cycles as well. But you can see that like the smoke is also creating a shadow, which is very cool too, a realistic looking shadow. So like, and then it denoised it here. So we can see that we've got a little bit of smoke working here. You can up the density, and then we can also, change the color. So maybe you want this to be like kind of like a orange, like a green smoke, like it's poison or something like that. The anisotropy, I believe, is like how the light travels through it as well. Emission, and you can add like a little bit of emission if you want, like 0.01. Yeah, but it makes like kind of like a orange, like a cloud around it, which maybe you're not really interested in. You can up the density of it too, so that it's like a thicker situation here. So yeah, I guess if you really wanted to, you can like crank the density like this, so it's like a really thick smoke. But yeah, and so here, if you're in the modeling class, you can really have some fun with your node editor here. So you could have like, and like I said, you could add a volume info here, and so you can. Like the density is a cool one. So like where it's more dense, you could have it. You could connect the density to the emission, like this. So like where it's more dense, it would like be. You could have it be a little bit brighter color, or have it like be a little like smokier or something like that. And then like you can add math multipliers. Let's see, converter math. You could do this, and do like. Power, so like make it an exponent. So like it's Oh, I don't know. So like you can get crazy with it. But anyway, let's see, 45 minutes. I think that's good. That's good for now. So and then obviously like rendering the smoke would take some time. But like you could, if I go back to layout view, you could animate the smoke eyes, and it'll change where the smoke is coming from. So like it can follow it around. You can have more of a dynamic situation going on. But anyway, okay. That is it for today. Liquid and smoke. If you'd like, you can try to kind of incorporate this into your movie studio logo graphic thing. Let me pull up our course schedule real quick. Loading, efforting, animations. So let's see. Next week, we'll Zoom together. So make sure you've finished up your inanimate object kind of story assignment. That's assignment 3. Assignment 4 is your movie studio logo graphic. That is due in 2 weeks, so you've still got some time to work on that. Start thinking about what you want your final project to be. What your final animation is going to be. Something that is like really cool and polished, and that you can spend about a month working on to add to your reel or your portfolio. So show off your animation skills. Man, I feel like this looks cool. I need need more smoke in my life. Cause that green, this is like reminding me of some superhero movie. Was it Green Goblin that just has like green smoke bombs that he like poisons people or something? Anyway, very cool, very good. Okay.